this is how I prepare a new idea manure spreader for wood. I found after 30 years of doing this, this is the optimal way to do it. It doesn't allow for any kind of curvature in the sides. It doesn't allow for any dips in the sides. If you don't do this, as you put the wood on, it will follow the frame. So if the frame has a dip, your overall product is going to have a dip in it after you have all the wood on it. So in preparation for all this, it does take a lot of clamps. I think I have 6, 10, 14 clamps. I have 14 clamps, a big heavy square tube that's pretty straight and heavy enough that, you know, the frame is going to follow it instead of it following the frame. I have extra heavy tubing down here. This is where you're going to get sag on this back end, because right here is basically a pivot point. So that tube from here to there, and it doesn't really matter how long it is as long as it encompasses the whole gambit there, that will keep that part of the frame nice and straight along with the top part. And to set this up, I do both sides underneath the frame, this side and that side, and then it's just a little idiosyncrasy I have. I always start with the left side. I've done it for years. I don't think it makes a difference. It's just that's the way my muscle memory works. So we can pretend like I don't have any clamps tight. I actually have all the clamps tight right now. But basically, I will start here, and I have roughly 7 inches to the inside of the frame. So I'm from the tubing to the inside of the frame. I have 7 inches. I go to the next one, inside the frame. I have 7 inches. I have 7 inches. And I can follow that all the way back. So I have 7 inches from the outside of the frame all the way to the inside of the tubing. So now what I have to do, and these bolts are all fairly tight. I don't have them incredibly tight, but they're fairly tight. So now what I want to do, I basically want to release them, and you may see it move, you may not. And what happens is you can guess at how straight that angle should be, or how level it should be this way. But you know, this will definitely make it straight. So I will loosen each one of these. So far my eye's been pretty good, I guess. That one there moved a little, but that one there is going to have to be tweaked because I had to put some new L brackets. In fact, I think I put 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I put 5 new L brackets. If you remember in my first video, that's an issue to look for because that is absolutely a wink link on new idea manure spreaders. And as you can see, I have the new rear angle, I have the shaft ready to go, I have the sprockets ready to go, I have the bearings on. It's pretty imperative that you have this ready to go at this point. In theory, you can put it on afterwards, but you're gonna have to do it anyway, so do it now when you have a chance. Okay, I guess I got lucky on all of those. None of those really move much. This rear end, this is something I sell from here to California, and it's probably what I sell the most of on new idea manure spreaders. Your web shaft, your web bearings, your web sprockets, and occasionally that rear angle. I don't think guys want to replace it, even though they should. But this is also notoriously bad on all ground drive new idea manure spreaders, except for maybe the 206. The 206 has a little different system than this. So right now I have a manure spreader frame. There's no dip in it. There's no curvature in it this way. And I am technically almost ready for wood. Now, If I am going to use the customer's new rails, so that will make me do this spreader a little differently. But now's where I will come in and I will check how plumb these are compared to the frame. So I want to come in and make sure these are all at 90 degrees. And I'll come back and tweak them off camera. But right now I want to make sure all these uprights are at 90 degrees. Now, because I'm using an old rail, I will actually mount the rail to these uprights, put the bottom two pieces of wood in, and then take off the rail to put the last piece of wood in. And the reason I do that is, even if it's an original rail, this gentleman's rail is not original. It's an aftermarket one. Someone's made it. So when they drilled the holes, if they didn't drill the holes properly, these uprights may not be vertical at 90 degrees when I get the rail on. And even I found, even with original rails, when I reuse original rails, that doesn't happen very often because usually they're pretty bad. I will mount the original rails on, put the bottom piece of wood on, put the next piece of wood on, and then take the rail off and put the top piece of wood on. That is the proper way to do it for an 18, a 17, and a 2-6. All three of those have top steel rails. But right now, I got to add an upright here and the arch, and I will be ready for the first piece of wood on this spreader. And I probably won't show it on camera, but after I get this side together, I will unscrew all the clamps, move this tubing over to that side, and I will actually do all that again. I will make sure that frame is not bent in any way or cupped in any way or anything like that, and then I will add the wood to that side. And that's just, again, your wood will follow. I do wood one piece at a time when it comes to the sides. Now the floor, that's a little different. I usually do 3 or 4 at a time if I can. But the sides, I will do one piece at a time. So basically, I'll put the bottom board on, I'll put in the bottom bolts, then I'll put the next piece of wood on, I'll put the next 2 sets of bolts in, and then I will go to the top one and finish bolting it all together. Again, this is 30 years of experience doing this and probably 200 spreaders or more. So this is the way I do it. I'm not telling you can't do it another way. I'm just saying some way, somehow, make sure you don't have a dip. Make sure you don't have a curve. Especially a dip is probably not as bad as a curve. But what happens whenever you have a curve, think about it, your front end's up there, your middle's out there, and then your back end's lined up with your front end again. So what happens is this chain that runs on this one, it's going to be on this side. This chain that runs for your sprocket, your widespread, is not going to line up very well because you have a curve in your spreader. Not to mention it looks bad. And also, sometimes there's some pretty tight clearances in your cylinder bars where you only have a 1/2 inch between your cylinder bars and your wood. You get a curve in there, your cylinder bars could hit your wood. So that's one of the reasons why this is so important. The other thing I would do, and I usually wait until I get a wood on. Sometimes these will be bowed out at the top. I want to make sure that they're pretty straight up and down this way. So I will take the time and push them in or pull them out, whatever. You can do it by hand. It just takes a little bit of muscle. But this spreader, I'll probably paint, and I say paint, it's not going to be paint that's going to last. It's just going to be paint as kind of a protectant for a little bit, especially the inside of the frame. I've been doing that lately on spreaders. Typically I never did that. Quite honestly, it's on the onus up to the customer to protect his investment by oiling it and cleaning it out and so forth. But lately I have been kind of putting rust preventive paint on the inside of the frame especially. So yeah, I don't have the wood cutouts yet, and I've got a mower to do. I've got a grain binder to get out of the shop. So you work on one for an hour, you work on another for an hour, you work on another for an hour, and then you switch them off. But the wood needs cut out. This needs painted. The wood will be stained an orange, and I'm ready to put the first side on.